Okay, Salam Alaikum everybody. Welcome to Eden Boys Leadership Academy and our open evening for prospective students for September 2021. Making the choice for secondary school is a really important decision. My job today is not to persuade you to come to Eden Boys, but to provide you with the information so that you can make an informed choice about which school is best suited to the needs of your son and to your aspirations. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about our vision and our mission, a little bit about our history, some information about the admissions process, and then an opportunity for some questions right at the end. Okay. So in terms of our mission, as a school, this is really important to us. We talk about this all the time. We talk about it to students in the assemblies. We talk about it to our staff in the induction and the training days, because everything we do is based on the three elements of our mission. So first and foremost, we talk about educational excellence. So we're a school that prides itself on our academic standards. We're part of an outstanding trust. And as a school, we want our boys to make phenomenal progress in their learning. And as a school, we want to be the best school in Manchester and amongst the best schools in the country for student progress. So educational excellence is a given for us. We expect each and every student to work hard. We believe that every student is capable of making fantastic progress, but for that to happen, we've got to work hard, the parents have got to work hard, and most importantly, the students have got to work hard. Secondly, as a faith school, we believe in the importance of developing good character. We talk a lot to the students about what it means to be a good person, to be a good human being, to be a good citizen, to be a good Muslim. All of those are important, and the values and the behaviours that underpin that are common to all four. The most important thing is that we expect people to be honest, to be hardworking, to be respectable, to be responsible, to care about themselves, about their families, about their fellow students, and about the school. So development of good character and the links that that's got to the Islamic faith are things that we talk about all the time. They're linked to our Hadith of the Week, they're linked to our assemblies, they're linked to our PHSE and citizenship programs, they're linked to the stuff that we do around raising money for good causes. All of that is related to this element that we want our boys to have fantastic character, and that's an essential part of the education that they get here. And the third part of our mission is about service to communities. We believe that we are very fortunate. We live in a country that's got a fantastic health service, free education for all, and everybody has a welfare state, so there's always someone you can go to and get help. So in payback for that, we expect our students to want to give something back to the wider community, and we do a lot of activities within school that enable students to give something back. So for example, at the moment we're raising money for Macmillan Cancer Research. During other times of the year, we'll join in national programs like Sports Relief or other national charity events. It's really important that the boys understand that they have a responsibility to give something back. That also is linked to stuff that we do in school. So there are lots of ways that the students can become helpers in school, or they can become volunteers, or they can become student leaders. All of these are ways in which students can give something back to the school community and to their local community. And as they get older, we will engage them in community programs. So for example, last year, the Year 9s went out, they did a full clean-up of Heaton Cemetery, spent the whole day there, making sure that by the time they left it, it was in a really good state.
Cheetham Hill, sir.
Okay. Cheetham Hill Cemetery. Okay. Okay. So in terms of our values, we talk a lot about our STAR values. So STAR stands for service, teamwork, ambition and respect. So in terms of service, I've just talked to you about serving each other, serving their families, serving the school and serving the local community, and getting involved in those sorts of projects. In terms of teamwork, we believe that teamwork is really important. Once these boys leave school, whatever career they decide to follow, it's inevitable that they will have to work alongside other people to be successful. So developing teamwork skills, learning how to be a good team member, how to help your team to succeed. These are essential life skills. In school, we provide opportunities for children to work together, whether it's in groups within classes, whether it's part of a football team, or it's part of an enterprise day, whether it's form groups working together to raise the most funds for charity. Whatever it is, we talk about the skills that you need to become a good team player, about each person doing the job that they've been allocated, allocating jobs on the basis of people's strength, and trying to make sure that you don't let your team down by doing your individual task to the best of your ability. In terms of ambition, we talk a lot about being ambitious and being aspirational. We want our boys to aspire to be the best that they can be, aspire to be leaders, both within the student body, but also when they leave school, to become leaders of the future. And that's something that we talk to them about all the time. And that's linked to our educational excellence. It's linked to our student leadership programs. We say, look, you ought to be the best that you can be. If you're going to be an engineer, you ought to aspire to be the lead engineer, the architect. If you want to be a teacher, you ought to aspire to be the head teacher. So that we want our kids to be ambitious for themselves, to be ambitious for their school. We want the school to be the best school in Manchester, as I said earlier on, and we want the school to be the best in the country. And then in terms of respect, that's something that underpins everything we do. We expect our boys to be respectful to each other, to be respectful to the members of staff, to be respectful to their parents. We also talk about respect for the environment and to make sure that the surroundings of the school and the community are kept clean, not drop litter, to pick litter up even if you didn't throw it. All of these things are important. We expect children to understand about responsibility and respect for the building, to keep it looking clean. We have a zero acceptance of any form of litter in school, zero tolerance of any form of bad language or bullying. All of these things are part of our adherence to this notion that respect is a given, that everybody deserves respect, and that in order to earn that respect for yourself, you have to be respectful and responsible. So these are really important things. And then thirdly, we talk about this notion of parent partnership. We believe that we can only be the best school if we have a really strong parent partnership. We have a partnership between the school, the parents and their sons. And that when all three groups work well together, then amazing things happen. When one of those three groups doesn't do what they're supposed to do, doesn't feel as engaged in the school experience as they should be, then things are not as strong as they ought to be. So we have this notion that through the partnership with parents, our school is a stronger school. And just as you can expect the best from us, we will expect the best from you. And Eden Boys is not a school for parents who just want to drop their kids off at 8 o'clock and pick them up again at 4 o'clock and not have any engagement in the learning process. We expect you to be involved. Where we need your help, we'll call you on the telephone or we invite you into a meeting in school, and we will expect you to support the school's effort in making sure that your son has a fantastic education. So partnership is really important. As part of that, we talk about something called the homeschool agreement, where we articulate what you can expect of us, we articulate what we expect of your sons, and what we expect of you as parents. All of those three people have to play their role. When we all work together, amazing things happen. If things aren't working in that way, then we will talk to you either on the phone or we invite you into a meeting so that we can get that right. In terms of our background and credentials, most of you will know by now that we've been here since 2017, that we're part of Star Academies. That's a world-class multi-academy trust. It's been deemed last year as the best multi-academy trust in the country. As well as running schools, they also run nationally acclaimed development programs for teachers and for school leaders. We have 13 faith-based schools, all of which, when they've been inspected, have been rated as outstanding in every area by Ofsted. Those of our schools which have done GCSE examinations, they've been in the top 5% within the whole country. Tawheedul Islam Girls High School, which is the top performing school in the country, has been the best school in the country out of all 6,000 secondary schools for the last 4 years, and all of our secondary schools are doing amazingly well. And you can see on the screen there some of the progress that we're showing, and it's that progress that puts us up there amongst the best schools in the country. So we're coming from a very strong base, and all the systems that we use are based on the systems that have enabled those schools to get these outstanding results. And we adopt those and we refine them so that they reflect the needs of our community, but they are tried and tested, they work, and they work very well when everybody implements them to a high standard. We are a Muslim school for boys, but we're not just a Muslim school for Muslim boys. All boys can come to our school. The school has an open admissions policy, and we are an inclusive and an outward-looking school. What that means is that we encourage our boys to play their full role in this community and to have lots of experiences which would put them in contact with children from other schools. And we try to make sure that the children in school experience a faith ethos that enables them to develop the good character that I mentioned earlier on. That there's a strong values-based education, and we emphasize constantly the importance of having good values. Okay, now some of you may have some misconceptions about what this school is, so very quickly I'm just going to run through what we are and what we're not. So, we're not a madrasa, we're not a Darul Uloom. If that's the sort of education you want, then that provision exists in and around Manchester. There's some very good Darul Ulooms, very good madrasas, and we expect that most of our boys will be enrolled on a madrasa and learning their Quran there. That's not what we do in school. We're not a selective school, so the admissions policy allows all students to come to this school regardless of ability, and there is no selection process in place, nor are we affiliated to any particular mosque or masjid, nor are there any criteria about which primary schools your son may have gone to. And finally, we are not a political, religious or campaigning organisation. We have no affiliation, and we try to keep that out of school as much as we can. Now, of course, we do talk about these things in school, so we are a Muslim faith ethos school, so we do have the Muslim ethos, but we don't do the Quranic study in school, and we don't do the other things that you might find at a madrasa. Okay. Now, in terms of what we teach, we follow the English Baccalaureate, and we teach all the subjects that you would expect to find in an outstanding secondary school: English, maths, science, humanities subjects, religious studies, physical education, creative subjects like art, drama, technical subjects like ICT, computer science, and other related technical subjects. So there's a wide range of subjects for your sons to get involved in, to learn and to enjoy, and we cater for children of all abilities, and additional support is provided for children who have special educational needs or disabilities, or who are just behind their peers. In terms of homework, I know that some of you are interested in the school's homework policy. We set homework for all year groups. For year 7, typically that would involve 2 homeworks a day, taking about an hour in total. It's really important that our children complete their homework, they complete it on time, and they do it to a high standard. That means that parents will need to get them organised, make sure there's a good place to do the homework at home, away from distractions, televisions and computers off, and focus entirely on the homework. In terms of other things, we have a high level of enrichment and intervention. So intervention is for those students who either arrive at school behind their peers in terms of their learning, or they have significant gaps in their learning. If that is true of your son, then he will be put into an intervention group after school for English and maths in year 7. Further up the school, we also have intervention for science and the other subjects. In terms of enrichment, we have after school clubs all week. At the moment, because of COVID, the enrichment is limited to just 1 day a week for each year group, so that we can keep the year groups separate, and your son will be given a choice of which enrichment activities he wants to opt for. and then it's first come, first served. So once that enrichment activity is full, then he will have to choose a different activity. In terms of the actual activities, there's lots of sporting enrichment, as well as enrichment based around science, technology, and also charitable work. Okay. Now, every student will be set a target based on their starting point. So when they leave primary school in a normal year and they've undertaken end-of-year SATs exams at the end of primary school, and we've got some information from their primary school about how good they are in particular subjects, we will use that information to set a target for your son. And the targets are based on your son making fantastic progress during each year that they're in school. And the targets are based on this notion that by the time they get through our school, at the end of it, they will have a Progress 8 score of at least +1. What that means is that if they meet all their targets in our school, by the time they leave Eden Boys, they will have on average 1 grade better than if they'd gone to another school. That's what those targets are based on. And we will report to you every half term about how well your child is doing against their academic targets. We will also report their pastoral performance, so how good their attendance is, their punctuality, their attendance to school, all of those things, and their behaviour in school, so that you have a really good idea about how well your son is doing in school. At the moment, we're sending those out on email, but we've just moved to something called Class Charts, which is a system that we use to record all of these things. So going forward, if you come in September 2021, your son will have a Class Charts account that you can log into, and you will see all their homework, you'll see all their achievement points, you'll see whether they've had a detention and how much progress they're making. All of that information will be available to you via Class Chart, and there'll be an app that you can put on your phone, and you can see that all the time. You'll get a notification saying that this homework is due, so you'll be able to check how well your son's doing. So at the moment, all the boys, they get a half-term report card. As I said, that report card gives you lots of information about how well your son's doing. If your son is struggling and is in need of extra help, and we feel that he needs some targeted support, then we will call you in for a one-to-one meeting, a head of year, a senior leader, a parent, and one of the boys, and we will have a detailed action planning meeting about what we can do to help your son to catch up. That will record what we're going to do, what your son needs to do, what needs to happen at home. And then the next time we meet, we will have a discussion about whether those things have happened and whether things have got better, and we will put forward some more action points. Okay? For each year group, we have a parents' evening where you get to meet all the teachers and have a detailed conversation with your son. But normally, we don't wait for parents' evenings. If we have an issue to deal with, we will phone you up. You'll get very regular contact from the head of year, and if we need to, we'll call you into school for a face-to-face meeting. So there's always an opportunity to talk about any issues as they arise. We're never waiting for something else to happen. We will get in touch quickly and get you into school and get it resolved. Now, in terms of admissions, you should have received this information already from your primary school. Admissions are made online. You have to go onto the portal at the manchester.gov website. So you make your choices online. It will ask you for up to 6 preferences. You put them in rank order. If you want Eden Boys, that's your best choice, then make sure you put that as number 1. Now, normally that doesn't make any difference, but it can make a difference. If you put Eden at number 2 or 3, and there is a place available at your number 1 school, then the local authority will give you that place, and it will take you off the Eden list. Okay? So if you've got another school that's higher up on the ranking than us, then if there's a place at that school, that's the place you'll be offered, and Eden will be taken off the list. So if you're adamant that you want your son to come here, then you must put Eden as your first choice. And the application's got to be submitted by the 31st of October. If you submit it after the 31st of October, your application will not be considered until all the other ones have been dealt with. That means it's very unlikely that you will get your first or second choice school. So make sure that you make your application before the end of October, and try not to leave it till the last day. Sometimes I've heard parents who've left it at the last minute and then there's been a technical problem, the computer doesn't work, or they're having trouble getting on and then they miss the deadline. So it's really important that you get it done quickly. In terms of the application places, we work with Manchester Council. It's done on the published admissions criteria, which are on the website, and we check all of that, both with our trust and with Manchester Council. Okay? So if we get more than 124 applications, which is our admission number, then we go over into the oversubscription criteria. Okay? We always get more than 124 applications. So to give you an idea, last year we had more than 300 applications. So it's really important that you apply on time, you put Eden first, and you get your application in. Now, we don't see the preference order. When you put the preference order, 1 to 6, that goes to Manchester Council, and they use our criteria to put the students into a rank order from number 1 all the way down to however many applications we've got. Okay? And then based on that, we will give offers to the first 124 which fall into that category. Now, because we always have more than 124 applications, we have to use the oversubscription criteria. Okay? So you can see on the screen there what the oversubscription criteria are. So children who've got a statement for SEN, as it used to be called, or an education healthcare plan, as it's now called, they get admitted automatically outside of this process. In terms of the oversubscription criteria, so if the child is a looked after child, i.e. is in the care of social services, or has been previously looked after, then they get preference. Okay?
So just click on that cancel for a second.
It'll go off by itself.
Oh yeah, it will do eventually.
Okay. So they get first priority. Now, for us, that only usually amounts to maybe 1 child in the year group. So it doesn't really affect most people's chances. Secondly, if you've been in care previously, or you're about to be taken into care, or you're adopted, then you get preference. Thirdly, if you've got members of staff who've been employed in the school for more than 2 years, and they have a child of the right age, then they get preference for that. And then we get into the sort of criteria that applies to the bulk of the students. So for the first 3 or 4 criteria, very few children fall into that category. Historically, that's never been more than about 6 to 10 students. Okay? And then, if you've got a sibling in the school, and previously this was only a sibling in the boys' school, but from this year, and including your son, if you have a sibling in the boys' school or in the girls' school, then your son will get higher up in the admissions criteria by virtue of having a sibling. Now, previously that was only if you had a sibling in the boys' school, but from this September, and including this cohort that we're talking about today, if you have a sister in the girls' school, then they will get preference. Okay. And then you've got another criteria, again, which is very rarely used. So if the council contacts us and says, we have a boy who is not yet in care, but they have lots of issues that we are dealing with, and we'd like you to give them a place, then they can get admission. But again, that's only through Children's Social Services, and it applies to a very small number of children. So last year, for example, we got no children in through that category. Okay, and then the final category, and the one that is most used, other than siblings, is the distance from your home to the school, measured in a straight line. Okay, so that's done by a computer program that the Manchester Council does for us, and it's the same for everybody. So admissions will be based on the children who are closest to the school if they are using that criteria. Okay. And then you get a letter on the 1st of March. Every parent in the country gets, with a secondary school age child, gets a letter on the 1st of March telling you what school's been allocated for you. Now, when you get that letter, if you've got a place from us, we will send you a letter to say, you've been offered a place, do you wish to accept? If you want to accept that place, you need to respond straight away to say, yes, I want this place, so that it can be secured. If you're not offered a place, but you were in our list of students who wanted a place, then at the beginning you will automatically be included on our waiting list. Okay. Now, if you're not offered a place and you are desperate for a place, then there's a process by which you can appeal. So that appeal is a formal process. It's managed for us between the trust and the council, and it's independent of the school. So you make an appeal, you write down the reasons for your appeal. An appeal hearing is organised to which you are invited, and the appeal panel, who are independent of the school, will listen to your appeal, and they can decide whether or not, even though the school is full, your son can have an extra place. Okay. And the first round of appeals usually happens towards May, June time, and then there are appeals throughout the summer, depending on the number of appeals that we need to hear. Okay. Now, in terms of other questions, I'm just going to quickly go through some of the questions that parents usually ask, so that we can avoid lots of questions at the end, because questions online are quite difficult. If after this you still have questions and you don't have the opportunity to ask them in the online session, then you can email the questions to us using the info@EB Manchester email address, which is on the website. Okay, so in terms of the holiday pattern, we follow the Manchester holiday pattern. So our holidays are in line with the holidays for the bulk of Manchester schools who follow the Manchester holiday pattern. The only difference, we have a 2 or 3 days difference, which is to do with Eid holidays, and to make sure that if Eid falls within term time, then we give up to 2 days holiday for Eid, and those days then have to be made up somewhere else. Okay? In terms of, parents often ask us about what happens in Ramadan. So what we've done in the past is that the school remains open in Ramadan, but we change the timings so that boys can come into school a bit later, so that they can get some decent sleep, having been able to go to the mosque in the evenings to pray Tarawih and all the rest of it. Okay? In terms of prayers in school, during the winter months, when the window for prayer time is very short, boys will offer prayers in congregation in Jamaat for Zuhr between October half term and March, and in December and January, when the time is very short, we also do Asr prayers in congregation in school. Okay, in terms of times of the day, our school starts early. The children are usually in school before 8 o'clock. Registration is at 8:15, and we finish at 3:25, and then we have after school enrichment and intervention from 3:25 to 4:15. That's Monday to Thursday. On a Friday, we expect students to be in school again at 8 o'clock, but school finishes at 12:10, so that the boys can go home, they can get ready and go and pray Jummah with their families. Okay, in terms of uniform, we have a very strict and very formal uniform. You'll see pictures of it in the parent handbook. It's we are very strict on that. It's a blue pinstripe jacket and trousers, a blue shirt with a white collar. Students can wear a white thobe, a white jubba in place of the shirt, but they still need to wear the blazer and the trousers. We have our own PE uniform. It's just been changed to make it more friendly in response to feedback from students and parents about the old PE uniform being a bit heavy and a bit dull looking. So the uniform is very important, and it's really important that you buy into that. In terms of transport, we don't have school buses. Most of our boys live very close to the school. They live within a mile and a half of school. But there are lots of buses that stop close to the school, so if you need to use public transport, there are buses that that stop outside the Fort Shopping Centre, which is literally a 5-minute walk from the school, and the children can walk to school from there. There's also tram stations nearby that students can use. In terms of school lunches, we have an external caterer called Chartwells. They provide hot, healthy meals at break times and at lunch times. If your child is on free school meals, he'll get an allocation. We are a cashless school, so children will get an ID card like this. Okay, every student will have one of those. There's a barcode and a chip on there, and parents will get a parent pay account, which they have to log into. You can put money on your account, your son's account, and then he can spend that money in school to buy hot food at break time or at lunchtime. If your son is entitled to free school meals, then the school will put £2.50 onto their card every day to enable him to buy a meal at lunchtime. Okay. You also have the choice, if you want, and lots of parents do, to send your son with a healthy packed lunch. So we have lots of boys who bring a packed lunch. That's absolutely fine. And in terms of parent pay, I've just mentioned it. If your son gets a place at the school, you will get given login details for a parent pay account. You log in, you put in your bank details. It's secure payment, and you can pay for your son's lunches online. We also use parent pay for school trips, for anything books that you want to buy, equipment you want to buy. So I hope I've covered a lot of the questions. If there are some questions remaining, then as I said, if you don't get the chance to ask them at our live sessions, then please do email us using the info email address, and we'll try to respond to all the questions individually. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that's been beneficial and useful, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Assalamu alaikum.